everyone. I hope you're doing well. Happy New Year to you. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season, had some time with friends and family, and did all the great stuff that we do at Christmas and New Year's. But of course now it's January, it's the new year, and it's time to take a look at what happened in 2025 and what is going to probably happen in 2026. Now you'll notice on the screen I have my book that I wrote. In case you've never seen this book, I'm hoping that maybe you'll reach out to me and I'll send you a copy. I have a digital version of it. I also have a paperback copy of it. And I wrote this book actually 2 years ago, but I've even updated it recently, so it's very, very up to date. And it is called Selling Secrets for a reason, because there are secrets to selling your property and selling successfully. And it's great because it's not a very long book. It's only about 100 pages. And everything I've learned over the last 26 years is in that book. All right, but enough about the book. Let's talk about what's going to be happening in 2026 and also what happened in 2025, especially in December. Okay, let's take a look at this. December 2025, you'll see that on the MLS we sold 1,126 homes, and that is down 14.57% from December of 2024. New listings though, 1,219 is only down 1.53%. Inventory was at 3,860, which is up 28.92% from 2024. So we finished the year off with 3.4 months supply of homes on the market. And that's actually not too bad for December. I have to say, selling 1,126 homes in December is a very, very typical December. And in fact, maybe even just slightly above if I was to go back over the last 20 years as to as the volume of sales. And I will tell you something, this is important. When you see a strong December, it usually, I'm not saying every year, but usually is an indication of a strong spring that's coming up. And I am anticipating it to be a stronger spring than most people might think is going to happen, because if you paying attention to all the news and pipelines and noise out of the US, it's confusing. And of course we're hearing stuff out of Ontario and the real estate market not doing well there. So there's all kinds of noise that gives people a fear that maybe this market is not going to be that great. And that often is why people are wrong, because they just listen to sources and they don't look at the data. I like to look at the data because the data really tells you what the market is doing. Benchmark price. You'll notice we finished December at 554. That's actually down 4.17. So we've saw obviously some price softening in the fall of 2025, especially in certain areas of the city. Where we've seen the most softening is in the condominium market, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And as far as the geographical areas around the city, it's primarily in the newer developments, because many of the builders have dropped their prices, and that has affected the market. So it's pretty tough if you can look at a home that's 10 years old and you can buy a new one for the same price in a similar area that's maybe right next door. Obviously people might be attracted to going with some new construction. So it has, I have to say, the culprit really has been the builders that have brought down the pricing, because if you look at all of the other communities in Calgary that are not competing with builders, they are doing a little bit better and they haven't seen much price softening. Now let's take a look here. 2024, our entire MLS system in the Calgary and the surrounding areas sold 26,975 homes. That is a above average type of a year. So we came in at 22,751. That's down 15%, but I can tell you 22,751 is a normal year. And what we saw in 2025 is we came out of the gate pretty strong in the spring, but by late spring, early summer, things really started to slow down, and that's when the pricing started to change with some of the builders. But all in all, 22,000 sales is really not that bad of a year. And if you look at new listings, 40,709, we were actually only up 9.16%, which is interesting because at some point in the summer we were up a lot more than that. The inventory finished off at 5,741. That is up 60.28% from a year previous. And that's why 2024 was such an interesting year. We had strong sales and we had lower inventory, and we saw a lot of price gains because of that. This year, with lower sales and higher inventory, that's why we didn't see as much price gains overall, and we saw some price softening, as I just mentioned. Finished off at 3.03 month supply in relation to the entire year. And sales to new listings ratio, this is an important thing to factor in. So for the entire year, 55.89% of the properties that were listed sold. If you went back in 24, when you've got lower inventory and higher sales, we had 72% of the properties listed would sell. So we finished off at 55.89. So this really means, you know, if you take the entire market, houses like detached houses, semi-detached condos, you had about a 56% chance of selling. Obviously, that will really vary depending on the location and the type of product that you have. But for the entire city, though, that's still not bad. There are some markets right now in Ontario that are way, way lower than that. So Calgary's doing pretty good overall. For the year, we finished at our benchmark price at $577,492. So again, that includes all products from condos to acreages to detached, the whole bit. And that is down 2.38% from last year at $591,556. So just a comment on the entire year of 2025. This was not a bad year. And I can tell you a lot of people thought that, you know, they were saying that the market was really down. But the numbers show you that it was down, but not as much as what some people might think. So, so we did have a pretty decent 2025 overall, with strong indications, because we've had such a good December, that 2026 is going to look good too. Let me just break it down for the month of December for you now on what just went on and the different products that we saw in December. So in December, for a detached house, 36.99% of the houses listed sold. This is really important to look over here, because in November we had 33.67. This is unusual. We don't usually have a better December than a November. It's very typical that December slows more than November for the obvious reasons, right? The weather gets cold, people get into Christmas mode, and we don't usually see a strong December. That's why I was saying earlier, that's an indication of a strong market. I have only seen this happen in 2 other years in my entire career. I saw it happen in 2005. I saw this happen, and then 2006 was a banner year, and I also saw this happen in 2013, where we had a banner year in 2014. So I've never seen this where the December was stronger than November, other than those 2 years. $726,900 was the benchmark price for the month of December for a detached house. And you can see that year over year, that is down 2.63%. And here's the hard numbers. We had 587 out of 1,587 sell. And these numbers right now are relatively the same coming into January. So what it comes down to is, if you want to sell your house in 2026, and if we're going to see something along this line that we're seeing here, as far as absorption rate of around, say, 30-35%, this is obviously why it's important that you have a very good strategy. The marketing and the negotiation will be what gets the job done. And I can tell you from being in a lot of these markets over the years, you can't take that lightly. And I can tell you, without a strategy and paying attention to the little things, you will end up being one of the people that didn't sell, which would be 60% of the people. 52 days on the market. That's a fairly lengthy period of time. For Calgary, the last number of years, we've been well under 30 days. So just goes to show, on average, when that time frame goes up, when you have more inventory. But trust me on this, you do it right, you can sell your house within 30 days. Here's the market distribution. This shouldn't be any surprise to any of you. 600 to 700,000 is 25% of the market. That's where the majority of the buyers are for a detached house. But look at the 700 to 800,000, not far off now, 20% of the market. So 45% of all the sales are between $600,000 and $800,000 because it's affordable. And then over here to the luxury market, $1 million to $1.5 million, 10% of the market, and that has continued to be really strong. And I've been quite surprised, just because I own the brokerage and I see all the files. I'm surprised how many of these homes that people purchase that do not require any mortgage financing. So it just goes to show there's a lot of money in Calgary. All right, I'll go through this quickly now, the rest of them, so I can keep this video to be not too long. This is semi-detached, and we dropped here. 25% of the semi-detached sold. So this number went down in December, which is normal. 666,000 is the benchmark price for a semi-detached. And please keep in mind, a lot of that is because in the semi-detached market, there is a lot of inner city brand new product that's been selling well over $1 million. Obviously, if you were looking in areas like Auburn Bay down in the south, you wouldn't be paying anywhere near that for a semi-detached. 96 out of 382, so that really slowed down. 54 days on the market, and you can see the majority are in that price point of $500,000 to $600,000. But you can also see over here, 10% of the market for semi-detached is $1 million to $1.5 million, and that continues to grow. And it's really surprising. Many years ago, semi-detached was built for affordability. Now they're building them in the luxury market, and I've seen some beautiful, gorgeous semi-detached homes that are over $1 million, and that's just become the norm now. Row houses, look at this, 26.19%. Wow, like a year ago that was 70%, so that has really dropped off, and primarily because unbelievable amount of inventory hit the market in 2025 on these row houses, and so huge selection. I mean, 421,000. It's an affordable price point, but if you take a look here, 653 were on the market in December, and only 171 sold. But you can see, look at back here in May, there was like 1,100 of them on the market. Like every month, most of 2025, there was over 1,000 of them on the market, and the demand just wasn't there. And there was just a ton of people that bought these townhouses with the intention of them being built, and then after they were done, they would resell them and try to make a profit. And I've talked to quite a few of these people, and they were sadly disappointed that they didn't get the money out of it that they were hoping. So be very careful when you're looking at new construction on row houses. There are opportunities to find some good value there, but you got to be very careful. And if you're looking in a newer development, there's, like I said, there's lots to choose from there. But I can tell you, if you want to get a good deal in this market, reach out to me. I've got some suggestions for you on how you can where to look, and and which ones actually tend to be easy to rent or easy to sell in the future. You'll notice right here, $400,000 to $500,000, 37.96% of the market. So that's the affordability part. But a lot of them now that we're selling in the high fours have dropped into the mid fours, even into the lower 400 range. So it's made it even more attractive now to pick one of these things up for a pretty good deal. Okay, last but not least, apartment condominiums. Unfortunately, only 22% of the ones that were listed sold, and but you can see the trend is the same. It actually, the absorption rate went up a little bit in December. Really, really unusual for condos. Our benchmark price is 303,600. That's down 7.35% from December of 2024. When you have an absorption rate like that, and you're clearly in a buyer's market, you're going to see some price softening. That's just how it is. Only 272 out of 1,238 sold. So even though it's great to see that a little bit more sold, in December than you normally would have seen, but the inventory, all year long. I mean, look at even in March, it was like 1,700 were available on the market, 2,000 in May. Just more inventory than we really need. 57 days on the market. The sweet spot you can see is that $200,000 to $400,000. That's where most of the condos are. I mean, we're talking, 70% of the market is in that price point for apartment condominiums in Calgary. So lots to choose from there and lots of opportunity. But like I said, even with the detached homes, if you want to try to sell a condo right now in this market, you have to have a really solid strategy, and you have to really be able to outbeat, if I can use that word, the competition, meaning your place needs to look its best, and you've got to have a strong marketing opportunity, or a strong marketing plan, because the buyers that are looking for these, they're looking for a good deal. They're looking for value. They understand, like any buyer right now who's looking, understands that there's opportunities in this market. And let me just speak to the buyers. Anytime you have higher levels of inventory and lower sales, there's opportunities. But I want to make something really clear here. There's a lot of bad inventory on the market as well. Like I can tell you right now, 35% of all the listings sitting on the Calgary market right now are priced too high. People tend to do that. Sellers often price their property incorrectly, and they do it for a number of reasons. Some of them do it because of the debt load they're carrying. Some of them are moving to a more expensive market. Some of them, just looked at how much they paid for it, how much they got into it. All those things are legitimate. I don't discount that. But at the end of the day, what sells is in relation to a similar property that is recently sold. So as much as people want to factor some of those things in when they're pricing their home, you have to really look at the recent sale. So as a buyer, you have to kind of work through all of that and drill down into the good listings. And I can tell you this, the good listings still, even in this market, can sell in 1 to 3 days. When people price them right, they prepare them right, they have strong marketing. So as a buyer, you have to be ready for that. I was working with one just in December, and they were certainly surprised on a house that we made an offer on, and they wanted to come in $50,000 below asking on a $1.4 million home that was only on the market for about 4 days, and their offer was declined, and it sold for close to the ask price. And they were really surprised by that because there was so much inventory on the market, and they ended up seeing that property sold for close to asking. But as I said, that property was priced fair. It was in a really good location. It had a lot of features inside that home that people liked, and somebody snapped it up quickly. So to me, just getting a really good value on a property doesn't necessarily mean beating the person down $50,000. Sometimes the best value is just getting the property quick because it's priced right, and pay either at or close to the asking price. Everything depends. That's why you need some good guidance, and you need data and sold data, and be able to have someone with experience be able to explain it to you. So hopefully this video didn't go on too long, but I wanted to make sure you were really up to date on the end of the year and how it looks for 2026. And as always, please feel free to text me, email me with any questions about the market. I'm always here to help out, no matter what your timeline is. See you all in February.